buttercup, you're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall, won't stop till I get enough.
All right, so you guys have been sending in some articles about this whole bird flu thing, and yeah, things are getting a little serious, especially with this new case in Louisiana. So we're diving into a CNN article today to unpack what this means for you.
Yeah, it is definitely a little concerning. This is the first severe case in the U.S. that's been linked to backyard flocks, not commercial poultry farms.
That's right. And that really hits close to home for anyone who keeps chickens, you know? Like, this isn't just about those large-scale poultry operations anymore.
Exactly. The article focuses on this patient in southwestern Louisiana, over 65, has some underlying conditions, and actually currently in critical condition.
That's scary. Really a wake-up call about how severe this particular strain can be. Do we know if the CDC is involved at all in this investigation?
Absolutely. They're working with the Louisiana Department of Health, who are leading the investigation. And while this case is really severe, it's important to note that they haven't seen any evidence of human-to-human transmission.
That's reassuring, but it still feels like there's a lot we don't know about how this virus is spreading.
You're right. A lot of unknowns right now. But one thing we do know is that there are multiple strains of bird flu circulating. This particular case in Louisiana involves the D1.1 strain, which has also been found in recent cases in Canada and Washington state.
And how's that different from other strains we've been hearing about?
So there's another strain, B3.13, which has shown up in dairy cows, some poultry outbreaks, and other human cases across the U.S. So these classifications basically describe different genetic variations of the virus, which can have an impact on how they spread and the severity of the illness they cause.
So we have these different strains popping up in different areas. And the CNN article also mentioned California declaring a state of emergency due to H5N1 spread. So what's the situation there?
Well, California has seen 34 human cases this year, primarily among dairy farm workers. It's really a reminder of the occupational hazards associated with this virus and how widespread it's becoming.
And this isn't just a California problem. You know, disruptions to the poultry industry there could have ripple effects on food prices across the whole country, impacting all of us. And this really highlights the need for those precautions that the CDC keeps talking about, especially for backyard flocks.
Yeah, that's precisely why this case in Louisiana is so concerning.
Yeah.
It's a game changer because it brings the risk much closer to home for people who maybe haven't considered themselves at risk before.
So it's not just about big farms anymore. It's about everyday people like our listeners who might just have a few chickens in their backyard or even just enjoy bird watching.
Exactly. And it raises a lot of questions about how these spillovers are actually happening, meaning the transmission of the virus from birds to humans.
That's a good point. The article quoted a virologist who called it a black box. Scientists are still trying to figure out the exact mechanisms.
And that makes it even more challenging to give specific advice on prevention. But the CDC is still urging people to be cautious and avoid contact with any birds that appear sick or dead.
Which makes sense. But what does that really mean in practice?
Well, think of it this way. Even seemingly harmless interactions like touching a bird feeder could carry a risk if infected birds have been there. You also want to be careful about handling poultry, especially without proper protective gear. And this might surprise you, but even unpasteurized milk from cows could be a potential transmission route.
Whoa, I didn't realize that. It sounds like we need to be a lot more aware of these potential risks in our everyday lives.
Absolutely. Awareness is key. We need to be informed about the different ways this virus can spread and take simple precautions to protect ourselves and our communities.
This is definitely more than just your average news story. It feels like we're stepping into a real-life science thriller.
It does have that element of suspense, doesn't it? Scientists are racing to understand this virus, public health officials are working to contain it, and all of us are trying to navigate this new reality.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but I think that's where our deep dive comes in, right? Breaking down the information and figuring out what it all means for us.
Exactly. We need to understand the risks, stay informed about the latest developments, and take action to protect ourselves and those around us. And that's really where the knowledge becomes power. You know, the more we understand about this virus and how it spreads, the better equipped we are to actually make those informed decisions.
Okay, so let's talk about those informed decisions. What can our listeners do, especially those who might have backyard chickens?
Well, the CDC has a lot of great resources available on our website. But, you know, some basic precautions can go a long way. Washing your hands thoroughly and frequently is crucial, especially after handling birds or just being around them.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but you're right. It's one of the most effective ways to prevent the spread of any virus.
Exactly. And if you do have backyard chickens, following strict biosecurity measures is essential. That includes things like keeping your coop clean and disinfected, limiting visitors, and preventing contact between your flock and wild birds.
So it's all about creating a barrier between your chickens and potential sources of infection, both inside and outside the coop.
Precisely. And while those measures might seem like overkill to some, remember that this case in Louisiana shows us how quickly things can change. We can't afford to be complacent.
That's true. It's a good reminder that this isn't just about protecting ourselves, it's also about protecting our communities. If we can prevent the spread of this virus among poultry, we can reduce the risk of it spilling over into the human population.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a One Health approach, recognizing that human, animal, and environmental health are all interconnected.
And speaking of interconnectedness, it makes you wonder what the global implications of this situation might be.
That's a really important point. Bird flu outbreaks aren't limited to North America. We're seeing cases in other parts of the world. And the potential for this virus to spread across borders is a real concern.
So this is truly a global issue, with potential ramifications for public health, the economy, and even international travel.
It is. It's a complex and evolving situation, and it really highlights the need for international collaboration and preparedness.
Yeah, this deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about. It feels like we've only uncovered the tip of the iceberg.
It's true. There's still so much that we're learning about this virus and its potential impact. But, that's what makes these deep dives so important. We're shedding light on these critical issues and empowering our listeners with the knowledge they need to stay safe and informed.
So to wrap things up, what are the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important message is that this situation is evolving, and we all need to stay vigilant. Pay attention to the news and updates from trusted sources like the CDC. If you have any concerns, reach out to your healthcare provider or local health department.
It really does sound like knowledge is our best defense right now, especially with those unknowns you mentioned about how the virus spreads.
I think so. And it's particularly fascinating about this case in Louisiana is it really shifts the focus from commercial operations to these smaller backyard flocks.
Right. Like suddenly it's not just about these big, large-scale poultry farms anymore. This brings the issue much closer to home for everyday people who might just have a few chickens in their backyard as a hobby.
Absolutely. And that raises a whole set of new questions, like how do we effectively reach these individuals with the information and resources that they need? It's a different challenge than communicating with, large commercial farms.
For sure. And it's like, if scientists are still trying to figure out exactly how these spillovers from birds to humans are happening, it must be tough to give concrete advice on prevention. I mean, beyond just the basics.
It is. But even with those unknowns, we can't underestimate the power of those basic precautions, like hand washing and avoiding contact with sick birds. Those simple steps can make a big difference.
So if someone is listening to this right now and thinking, wait a minute, I have chickens, what should I do? Where's the best place to go for the most up-to-date information and guidance?
Well, the CDC website is an excellent resource. They have detailed information about bird flu, including specific recommendations for those backyard flock owners.
So it sounds like staying informed is really key, and luckily resources like that are readily available.
Well, this has been a fascinating and honestly a little bit unsettling deep dive. It's clear that this bird flu situation is something we all need to be aware of, not just those working in the poultry industry.
Yeah, it really has. This case in Louisiana definitely raises the stakes for everyone, and it makes you think. Considering this new development, how might local communities and health officials collaborate to better educate and protect those backyard chicken owners? What creative solutions could we come up with to help minimize the risks?
Those are great questions for us all to consider. We've explored a lot of information here today, and now it's really about taking action. Remember, knowledge is power when it comes to navigating potential health risks like this. So stay informed, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay healthy.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a puppy dog. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.